Well, we're witnessing what could be the lead up to World War III, and we've never been at a more dangerous moment in American history. A source just told me that this is way beyond worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis. You think, oh, the Cuban Missile Crisis is sort of the threshold where things, shit hits the fan. No. We're already beyond that point. We are way beyond that point. Right now, the United States is throwing its full support behind Israel's military actions in the Middle East. And last night, we just sent another $5.2 billion in emergency aid from the United States to bolster its air defenses, including the Iron Dome and the David Sling system and their laser system, which is under development. How do you as an American feel about sending your tax dollars to help with their Iron Dome and their David Sling system, which, by the way, didn't stop anything coming from Iran? Any of the hypersonic missiles? Nothing. Nothing could shoot those down. But you're going to send $5.2 billion there. And last night, we sent that money to Israel, and that's why Netanyahu is smiling this morning. This is all happening while American bodies are still not recovered in Asheville, North Carolina, and people can't get any assistance that they need. I spoke to a family from Asheville this weekend who told me it was unbelievable. FEMA didn't show up for 2 weeks. And when they did show up, they were messing with the supplies that had arrived from other Americans who had brought supplies in to try to help Americans. FEMA started messing with those supplies. They were there as eyewitnesses in Asheville and had their homes destroyed. 2 weeks ago, they didn't show up at all. It took them that long to get there. Any help. And these people are not alone. There's many, many more people like in America right now in Asheville dealing with this. Watch.
People who have small businesses downtown that thought they were going to get money from the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration was like, nope, that's FEMA. And FEMA was like, nope, that's the SBA. And so they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to submit both places. And then they got rejected. And now they've got to pay workers with funds that they do not have. So, I mean, I'm personally very concerned that all of these businesses that usually rely on tourism are going to shut down because they cannot make it without the tourist income, and the tourists are not here. And that's just the small businesses. The actual locals with homes, I feel like, is the most confusing bit because, I said on air that we did get a $750 check. But what I didn't say on air was that I submitted receipts of thousands of dollars of expenses. Like our generator was running for 16 days and it was using 20 to 25 gallons of gas a day. That's just hundreds of dollars just in gas, not to mention the chainsaw. Starlink cost was a couple $100.
And keep in mind that wasn't to have like a luxurious life. That was to keep
the lights on.
Our neighbor's CPAP machine going.
Yeah.
And food in the fridge to feed our family. So.
Yeah.
Remember how people who were not needs-based received thousands of dollars of COVID relief money and then bought Corvettes with it, and the government was able to respond quickly during the pandemic? Where's that? I thought we were a technologically advanced nation.
No, we can't have that. But you might say, you watch that Asheville couple, and so you're like, okay, well, wait a minute. You might say, Clayton, Israel has nothing to do with Asheville, North Carolina. It's totally separate. They're not related. And you're 100% correct about that. They're not related in any way, shape, or form. One is a destroyed American city where Americans live and work, and one is a wealthy country with a budget surplus, a nuclear arsenal, a massive nuclear arsenal, and a space force. They're not related at all, and that's the point.
Well,
American tax dollars should be going here, not there.
Israel can spy on those people as much as they want, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. And they're happy to.
Right.
Using their
so there's the connection.
Okay. They can use their Pegasus software to spy on Americans.
Yes,
okay.
That's true.
Yeah, that's great. So, or the people of East Palestine, Ohio, for crying out loud, suffering under the chemical spill that destroyed their city. Or the people of Maui. How many more? Give me more lists. People in New Mexico right now dealing with massive amounts of flooding.
We can spy on all of them.
But Biden is sending $5 billion so Israel can carry out a massive war and drag the United States into it. Just so you understand, right now, 57,000 American troops are stationed across the Middle East, all to support a murderous warmonger. Now, these Americans are sitting ducks while who are waiting to be pulled into a wider conflict. Many of these are small military bases that can handle only small arms fire and drone attacks, according to Daniel Davis, who's a 4-time combat veteran who's been to these bases and says Americans are sitting ducks against ballistic missiles and other attacks at these bases. Listen.
But our base security are for small arms fire. It's for maybe drones and mortars or small rockets, et cetera, something that a militia would have. We have some decent defense against that. We have no defense against ballistic missiles at all. None. Not even inadequate, just none. There's nothing that can stop those kinds of strikes. I have been screaming from every media platform I can get, especially on Fox News from 2018 onward to this very moment, that all of these troops we have in the Middle East, especially the ones in Syria, Iraq, and in Jordan, are nothing but strategic vulnerability points. They do absolutely nothing to help secure America. They're not performing any national security purpose that benefits our country. They are just points of vulnerability. And this is what I've been talking about from the beginning.
Yeah. So he says, I've been on Fox News. So he's screaming the echo chamber there, right? He's just going on places that are going to support the military industrial complex.
Right.
Basically telling people, get our men out of there, get our men and women out of these regions right now and bring them home, get these bases closed. In other words, these Americans are being used like pawns. That's it. Sitting ducks. The Biden administration knows this very well. They've been quoted as saying the same for merely, just a few months ago. In fact, the Biden administration was quoted in the New York Times admitting that, yes, these American forces are sitting ducks. Here's the New York Times. The latest attack on American troops in the region over the weekend resulted in no deaths. But President Biden and his advisors worry that it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time when American forces will be killed. Of course it is, because there's no other strategic purpose whatsoever. And that's not me saying that. That's military leaders saying that. That's combat veterans saying that. As Israel escalates the attack on Iran and Lebanon, all being helped by the U.S., by the way, our soldiers are placed in increasingly precarious situations. The Middle East is a powder keg, a tinderbox, ready to explode right now. And our involvement is not just military, but of course it's military, but it's economic, of course. That's the heart of it. Follow the money. Billions of taxpayer dollars, $5 billion to Israel, millions overnight. By the way, Secretary Austin was just in Ukraine handing up $400 million to Ukraine again.
But they call it a surprise visit. Surprise. No one surprises me with $400 million.
Wouldn't it be great if Secretary Austin shows up in Asheville, North Carolina?
With a surprise $400 million.
Here's $400 million. What would $400 million do to the people of Asheville, North Carolina to help that community?
Run a lot of generators.
Help a lot of small businesses. Help people recover. I see some people here in the chat saying they're from Asheville, North Carolina. It's an absolute disaster right now. $400 million, though, goes to Zelensky. $5 billion goes to Israel. Where's the outrage? Every member of Congress is in on this, save like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. Those are the only ones that are speaking out against this.
And Dennis Kucinich, who's running again.
Yeah, Dennis Kucinich and maybe Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's only a handful. I can put them like on one hand. Mm-hmm. Speaker Johnson, though, is fully in the tank for giving as much money as possible 100%. To Israel. They flew him there, gave him a cushy trip and all of that, put him up in nice hotels. And so then he's going to funnel billions of dollars to them right now. So there's zero benefit to the United States to support Israel and for Americans to support Israel and die for Israel. If you watch Fox News, and, that's the thing, you turn on the sort of mockingbird media right now, turn on any of these channels, and they're all saying the same thing. We have to support our greatest ally, Israel. We have to do it. You could turn on the morning shows, and then as the morning shows go into the second shows at 9 a.m. and then 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. and noon, all of those shows all day long say the exact same thing. They're all parroting the exact same garbage all day long.
With the same compromised guests who are military funded or military contractors or government research contractors. They platform the same people selling you a war. They platform almost nobody who is anti-war, pretty much nobody, unless they accidentally book Jeffrey Sachs.
Well, Daniel Davis was just saying, he's like, I was on Fox News trying to get this message out there that these Americans are sitting ducks in the Middle East, get them out of there.
Yeah, I was wondering if they cut his mic.
Well, apparently he's not there anymore. Like, they're not having him on as a guest anymore.
Right.
Because that goes against their narrative. They want
junior
war.
Producer got in trouble for platforming him.
Yeah. If you watch Fox News, they're all saying the same thing, but they can't answer the simple question. When you tell us that we need to support our greatest ally because it helps us, how exactly does it help us? Well, the problem is they can't answer that question. Any of these fools and even alternative media people, they say the same thing. And guess what? They cannot answer the simple question. How does it benefit the United States for us to have Americans fight and die over there, or for us to send billions of dollars there? They can't answer it. They can't answer it because, as John Mearsheimer points out in his great book, I encourage you all to read it, called The Israel Lobby, there's no provable benefit to the United States. None. In fact, the opposite is true, he makes the point. It's crushing the United States to support Israel. It hurts us tremendously. Just look at the sanctions we've put on Russia, how it's hurt us. All of this is in an effort to hurt America. And that's exactly the point.
It also inspires terrorism as well.
Right.
Because
so it hurts
they
us
see
physically.
themselves as victims of colonizers. They know that the United States is in lockstep. These are either Arabic countries or Middle Eastern, however you want to call it. And they are inspired to continually plan terrorist retaliations on us. Right.
David, can you put that last comment back up? I don't know if it went away or if it's too late to put it back up there. Shauna Duncan says, reminds me of Albert Pike's letter to the Italian politician, Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 about World Wars I, II, and III, and the entire Middle East. Interesting. Okay. So, warning us about this years ahead of time. Exactly. Perhaps no one is better to make this point than my hero, Ron Paul. He released this video last night about his concerns over our involvement in Israel. Listen.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Weekly Report. Why should we fight wars for Ukraine and Israel? When you take on the role of the world's policeman, don't be surprised when the countries who cannot fight their own wars calls 911. Likewise with Israel. Tel Aviv has, in response to the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack, launched a war to annihilate Palestinians from Gaza, invade and occupy southern Lebanon, and degrade the military of Iraq and Syria and take on Iran. But the Israeli military has nowhere near the capacity to fight so many wars on so many fronts, so it has increasingly demanded U.S. involvement in the conflicts. Already, the U.S. has provided some $23 billion in additional military aid to Israel and has employed U.S. military assets in the region to shoot down missiles and provide increased weapons and intelligence. But it's still not enough for Israel. To fight Iran with its significant military capabilities, Israel appears desperate to drag the U.S. military into the battle. The stationing of one or perhaps two THAAD air defense systems, each with 100 U.S. troops to operate them, is part of that effort. These 100 to 200 U.S. troops are illegally engaged in combat. But what's worse is that they are being used as a tripwire. U.S. and Israeli leaders understand that they will be considered legitimate targets for any additional Iranian missile attack. But as soon as American troops start getting killed in Israel, there will be a massive push for further U.S. involvement. Washington's response to Israel trying to drag us into its war with Iran should be just like with Ukraine. No more weapons, no more money. You're on your own. Make peace. That is what a pro-American foreign policy looks like. Our founders understood it very well and wrote about it often. It's called non-intervention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we forget about that. We don't listen to George Washington's message in his farewell address. Read George Washington's farewell address. People try to rewrite it all the time and tell us that it's not about that. There's some sort of bad the isolationism is somehow a bad word. It's non-interventionism.
Well, no, you can see exactly how the media is in lockstep with the government if you read Rachel Maddow's most recent book, because she literally frames everyone who is non-interventionist as a Nazi supporter. That's the premise of the book. I've read it for you, so you don't have to read it if you want to.
No,
but literally, that's what she does, is she assumes that everybody who did not want their son to die in World War II supported the Nazis and Hitler.
So the timing of all of this is ominous. Right now, new polling out this morning shows Donald Trump winning. By the way, we're talking about this, about World War III, because no one else is. Maybe a few in the alternative media are, but no, I mean, the mainstream media is fully in step with this. And so we need to be prepared as people who are awakened and are not tied to this mainstream media narrative. I saw someone in the chat just a few minutes ago. Remember back in the day, you only had 3 channels you could flip through, and they were all on the same exact narrative. Yeah, now all of the cable news and all of the mainstream media are on the same damn narrative, the same exact thing.
Well, and remember, they went off at midnight. Like there wasn't this 24-hour crazy news cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put the American flag up. So the timing of all of this is ominous. Right now, new polling out this morning shows Donald Trump winning in a landslide. Like not even close. The deep state is desperate right now, trying to keep Trump out of the White House, and they'll stop at nothing. Even martial law, launching an attack against Iran, of course, brings the U.S. into the fight. It's the perfect cover for the Biden administration to take full authoritarian control. We've been warning about this. Who takes over the United States when the threat of an invasion happens? The head of NORAD. We don't need elections in the United States. We'll do it Zelensky style. You don't need to vote. You don't need to worry about it. Oh, you sent 15 million votes already in remotely. You already mailed your ballots in. Put those on hold. We're gonna hold off on stuff right now. We don't want Trump in the White House. Let's be clear. This is not about humanitarianism, humanitarian aid to Israel or security. It's about maintaining U.S. hegemony right now in the region and ensuring that the American corporate interests are being paid for and profiting from the aftermath of this. You've already heard about the interests of American corporations in Gaza and the plans to build condominium complexes and beachfront resorts and all of that natural gas money that's sitting off the coast of Palestine right now. Yeah, sure, it belongs to them, but maybe Israel and the United States could get their hands on some of that trillions of dollars worth of natural gas.
Oh, no, it was trillions in the 50s when they sold this idea to the United States.
So maybe it's 100 trillion now?
Right. It was 50 trillion then in 1950. Think about what it is now.
So why is Blinken there right now? Blinken's there because of money interests and seeing making sure that we're on the same page for this war with Iran. And then what does the aftermath of all of this look like? That's why Blinken is there right now. According to reports, Blinken's discussions are focused on post-war reconstruction of Gaza and the plans. A Gaza that, of course, is going to be rebuilt, not for the Palestinians, but for foreign interests. That's exactly right. Just like in Ukraine. Make no mistake about it. Where will BlackRock and Vanguard be involved in these discussions? Who do you think is going to get these lucrative contracts to rebuild the infrastructure? We already know Jared Kushner, who threw President Trump under the bus and aligned himself with Mike Pence. He's been eyeing up real estate deals and developments inside of Gaza.
Oh, and what's the opportunity? Well, the United Nations put a $ on it today with a report saying they've set back the economy of Palestinian territories by 69 years. They say 80% of all infrastructure there is broken. That includes schools, commercial housing, and residency, upwards of 80 to 90%. So there's opportunity if you want it.
Yeah. So the mainstream media is going to tell you that Blinken's there to promote peace, but don't fall for it, people. You know exactly. He's there to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Iran. But what has Israel done every single time that we've talked about a ceasefire? Every time we've said, let's have a ceasefire, the United States has asked them to do this. Ignored it. They've ignored it. In fact, Israel has escalated its military actions each time with the full backing of the United States. We want a ceasefire, but instead we're going to increase military actions and we want you to help us, United States. And we do it like little lapdogs. We do it every single damn time.
But when you see Netanyahu say, well, Israel supported a ceasefire, Israel offered peace, the type of peace that they are offering, if you continue to read their proposals, is peace with a permanent Israeli presence in Gaza and now Lebanon. This week, they said, our peace in Lebanon requires us to stay in Lebanon. What the F is that? That's not peace. That's occupation.
So again, U.S. veteran Daniel Davis this morning said that every time Biden has asked Israel to do anything, they've laughed at us and they've spit right in our face. Watch.
We told them don't go into Rafah. They went into Rafah. We told them take care of, and I'm talking from the beginning, use targeted intelligence-driven operations to minimize to the maximum extent possible civilian losses. They blew that off and instead wiped out entire sections of the city, destroyed every capacity that the entire strip, all 25 miles wide of it, to self-sustain. There's no capacity to do that now indefinitely for so many years into the future. Anyone who lives there is going to have to be sustained from the outside. They've not listened to us on that. We say we really urgently wanted a ceasefire in Gaza. They wouldn't give it to us. We said we wanted a 21-day ceasefire in Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. They wouldn't give it to us. We said we want a two-state solution. They spit in our face. Israel just effectively spits in our face, unequivocally, in your face says, no, there will be no two-state solution.
The reality is that Antony Blinken, this trip is not about peace at all. Wake up, people. Everyone watching this, you guys know. He's there to broker a ceasefire. Come on. No, he's not.
Sprayberry in the chat says they do want peace, a piece of land.
Yeah, it's all about land. It's a massive land grab, and it has been since the 1940s. Wake up. Just tell us what it is. Just be honest with us. If Netanyahu came out on television, just was honest, he's like, look, the reason we're ethnically cleansing all of Gaza and killing all of these Palestinians, it's not about Hamas at all. We created Hamas. As you know, we and the United States armed them and created them. All we want is their gas. We want their land. There's a lot of beachfront property right here that we want. We would at least say, hey, okay, at least you're being honest with us. Stop pretending that it's some holier than thou mission. We would understand that. And the reason we stood down on October 7th and allowed them to attack us for 7 hours and we didn't respond, it's because this was a perfect opportunity. It's a perfect catalyst for us to go in and steal as much land as possible. Don't lie to us. We're not stupid.
We needed martyrs.
And then you start throwing around words like anti-Semite if you call this out. Stop using that garbage. You don't need it. We're better than that. Just be the truth. Just tell us the truth about why you want this land. We understand. You want to kill all these people because you want the land. It's not about Hamas. It never was. It was always about the natural gas and the resources and the beachfront property. The reality is that Antony Blinken's trip is not about peace at all. It's about positioning American interests for post-war spoils and reconstruction. It's about coordinating the world war that is about to be fully unleashed in just 14 days from now. We got an election, 14 days. So when were they going to launch this attack on Iran? Is it going to happen right before the election so they can announce martial law? What are they going to do? What is the plan here? Americans are being used right now as cannon fodder in all of this. Listen to Daniel Davis on this.
Now, one wonders why these guys here are so eager to be sending American troops, American ammunition, American warplanes, American naval assets, etc., to be used by Israel for whatever they want to do, and oblivious to the fact that it's dwindling down our resources, dwindling down our stocks of key weapon systems that we may need if we get sucked into a war, and potentially putting at risk American troops in the area. That's one of the things that just really irks me about not only are these guys wanting to put Israel first using American assets and American personnel, they're unconcerned that American troops could be asked to die for Israel's country, not for our country, not for our national defense.
So ask yourselves, should American forces be used as cannon fodder in the Middle East? No strategic value whatsoever for Americans to be in this region. 57,000 of them we're live right now on this Tuesday. We are live right now. There's thousands more ready to be deployed and heading to this region. Should they be killed for Israel's interests, for this war that the Biden administration is actively tied to with Israel right now? Let me know in the comments below. Where do you come down on this?